What's going on, guys? Big welcome to you all to our channel. We are Team Crushing the Meta. You're here with D-Boy. What do you see right here? Yep, it is the one and only GB8 for Spike Brothers. So, some of you guys have requested me to do a video to talk about the GB8, explain his skill, and show some combos. If you're new to our channel, you could subscribe to the channel if you like the video and comment as well. And if you want to enjoy more of these videos that are about Spike Brothers, then there is a playlist on the channel. It's called Spike Brothers Show by D-Boy. You could check that out. And if you enjoy other content, you could also check it out on our channel. We do reveals, we do openings, we do deck profiles, and we do lots of other videos. Alright, so for today's video, we will talk about the GB8, as I explained. The GB8, which is a card that have made a huge difference for lots of people who played Spike Brother as a clan, because it's just such a good card. And for the GB8, we always had good cards that could get us to the GB8 easier, as in our starter, which is Mega Trainer, and of course Jelly Beans, who is able to search the heal trigger as well. And with the heal trigger, you'll be able to G-guard, and better said, this G-guard, the flip G-guard, to get to the GB8 faster. There are of course other cards that you could use as well, as in we have Tempest Sphere right here, who could give you GB early, and of course we have our boy Zazan you could use as well to get into the GB8 faster. Alright, so before we get to talk about all of these cards, the important thing is the GB8 himself, which is a hard name to pronounce. Let's ask Google for help. Right, Google? You don't mind helping us out, right?
Temerarious Cataclysmic Rogue, Hellhard 8.
Thanks, Google. We appreciate it. So I don't have to pronounce the name myself. But pretty much Hellhard 8, GB8, his name, just say it all. This beast right here is a card that have done lots of damage. It's a card that some people never did understand, and some others loved and some others hate. And for this video, we'll start with explaining his skill. So I will just read it for you guys the way it's written. So right here we have, I hope that you guys could read it as well. But pretty much you need GB8 for his skill, so you need 7 cards face up in the G zone, and then he count himself, so he will be the 8th card, and with that his skill will activate. When your unit attacks, choose one of your units, and this unit get plus 10k, and a skill, an auto ability. Choose this card and put it a card from your hand into your soul. At the end of the battle that unit attacks or boosts, you may pay the cost. If you do, search your deck for up to 1 card, call it to an open regular circle, shuffle your deck. Right, so it has been a long time since I read his skill, because I don't need to read it. I just know it by heart. But pretty much what happens is that people never did understood when his skill activates and when it triggers, and what happens to that unit that gives it the skill to, and what happens with the power, and you could target a Vanguard or Vanguard, and what's all of that. And this video will explain it. So let's have an example right here how his skill works, and let's take just the vanilla, because you would say that's the easiest regards to use his skill with, because it doesn't do anything except being a vanilla. So right here, let's have a full field of vanillas. Alright, so let's have all of them chilling, because why not? Here we go. So we have enough vanillas right here, and let's just call all of them to the field and explain how the skill of the GB8 work. Right, so this would be your field. pretty much when something attacks, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's a Vanguard, if it's a Vanguard, whatever, doesn't matter at all. So when something attacks right here, so let's say you attack with this, the skill of the GB8 will trigger right away. This unit attacks. Now you target one of your units. Doesn't matter which one. You could target a Vanguard, you could target the attacking unit, any unit that you want. You target that unit and you give it an extra 10k. So let's say that you target itself. Then you give it the second skill. So first you give it a 10k and then you give it a skill. So the red skill right here, the red text, this card gets that skill. So if this card is a vanilla and you have a Cyclone face up in your G zone, then normally this unit gets the extra 5k, right? Because you have Cyclone. But the moment that you use the GB8 skill to give him the 10k and the skill of the GB8, this 5k will go away because it's not a vanilla anymore. Now it has that red text. It has a Vanguard ability. So that's very important to remember, that that red text goes to the unit that you want to give it to. Alright? So this attacks. At the end of the battle, you could activate his ability. You don't have to. It's up to you. You could activate the ability to put this card to your soul with a card from your hand, and then you may call something from your deck to an open Vanguard circle. Alright, so that's how his ability works. If you want to attack and give the GB8 skill to this, it's also possible. At the end of the battle, you could choose to activate his ability to put him into the soul, to draw a card, then you could activate this ability to put into your soul with a card from your hand to call something right here, because you could only call to an open Vanguard circle. Alright, so again, his skill is actually very, very simple. What he does is when something attacks, you give it an extra 10k and skill, and at the end of the battle, it's up to you to choose to put that into your soul with a card from your hand to call something to the open Vanguard circle from your deck. So it depends on how much cards you have in your hand, how many attacks you could make. But there are some other cards that could give you advantage, like especially these two. There are more than these two to give you advantage, but I chose to do these two because of the second ability of Spike Bouncer and the ability of Breach, who work differently, and I want to explain that in a minute. But first of all, let's talk a little bit about some cards that you actually don't want to put into your soul. So let's say that you have Rising Nova as your Vanguard, the old or the new Rising Nova, doesn't matter, or any Rising. And then you also have the Frog Raider behind it. So you have the booster, which is known by Frog Raider Boy. So you have Frog Raider right here, yes? And then you have also a charging unit in your deck. So let's say that you have a Mayhem Tiger. So right here, you could actually attack with something that is put right here. So let's say that you have a Breach. You could attack first with the GB8, and then you could use the skill of the GB8 to give the Frog Raider extra 10k and the skill of the GB8. Then you do a drive check. Let's say you get a trigger, you could give it a Frog Raider as well. Then you attack with this. Now you could choose to give the skill of the GB8 again to the Frog Raider. So the Frog Raider powers up even more. So it would be 30k, right? Then the skill of Breach goes to Soul, you draw a card. Then you could attack with this, and then give this the skill of the GB8, because now you have to, otherwise you don't have any attacker anymore. So this already got the skill of the GB8 twice, right? So then you attack with this, it gets the skill of the GB8 as well, and then at the end of the battle it goes to Soul, you put a card from your hand into the Soul, and then you may call something to an open Vanguard circle. which could be the Mayhem Tiger right here. You could also do it a little bit differently. You could call the Spike Bouncer right here, activate this ability by counterblasting one and hoping to get something on this charge. This with restand is also good. Now you could attack with this first if you want to. So we attack with this. At the end of the battle, it goes away. But by attacking, you could still activate the skill of the GB8 again. So you could power up the Frog Raider, it goes up to 40, and it gets the skill of GB8 again. And then at the end of the battle, this goes to the bottom of the deck. Now you could attack with the Spike Bouncer right here. You could even boost him if you want to. And let's say you give this skill of the GB8 to the booster. At the end of the battle, you could choose to put this into your soul to draw a card, and then put this into your soul with a card from your hand to call something to an open regular circle, which could be something like a Mayhem Tiger, or you could choose to get the anything that could recall something like Spike Bouncer right here, and then you could use the skill to try to get another charging unit. With this, you could see that you could power up the Frog Raider, so you could keep giving the skill of the GB8 to one unit that could restand. This is the combo that we used in the past to power up the Frog Raider and to keep restanding it, but most of the time now with having the markers, you actually don't really have to rely on the Frog Raider. So that's one of the things that I just want to show you guys, that the skill of the GB8 doesn't have to activate the second ability. It's up to you to use it because it has a cost, which is putting a card from your hand into the soul. So now I actually wanted to explain two cards. The two cards that I wanted to explain are Breach and Spiking Cyclone. Why did I want to choose to show you these two cards? Because these two have a similar ability but work differently. In the game of Vanguard, it's very important to understand that the cost is important, which changes the timing of when the unit activates its ability or when a unit misses the timing to activate its ability. Timing missing is something that we don't really use in Vanguard or see, because the Vanguard game is actually very simple and it doesn't really have the issues that you could miss timing. But I will explain to you what I mean right here. So let's say that you attack with the Spike Bouncer. Then you give it the skill of the GB8. So you give it a plus 10k and a crit. Okay. Now the skill of Spike Bouncer, the second ability, at the end of the battle, you could counterblast one, put this into your soul and draw, right? You could do that. If you do that, if you use the second ability of Spike Bouncer, then you could not use the skill of the GB8 anymore, because the skill of the GB8 requires you to put a Vanguard that attacked, that has this skill. You need to put that into your soul with a card from your hand to be able to call to the open regular circle. So because his ability said at the end of the battle that this unit attacked, counterblast one, put this unit into your soul and draw a card. The putting this unit into your soul is part of the cost, so you could not activate both abilities. With Breach, it's different. This card said when this unit attacks a Vanguard, you put a normal unit from the drop zone back to your deck, and then your opponent have to intercept, blah 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 blah. At the end of the battle, you could draw a card and put this unit into your soul. But putting this unit into your soul is part of the skill and not part of the cost, because the cost is that you need to put a normal unit from the drop zone back to the bottom of the deck, and you also pay the cost at the beginning of the battle phase, and then your opponent would have to intercept with everything, and then you put this unit into your soul and draw a card. So what happens with Breach is you could attack with Breach, put a normal unit from the drop zone back to the bottom of your deck, and then your opponent will have to intercept with everything. Now you get to his ability, so you give him the extra 10k and the power, and now at the end of the battle, you could choose to put this unit into your soul and draw a card, but you could also choose to put this unit into your soul by his ability and put a card from your hand into the soul, and then call something from your deck. All right, and then you put this unit into your soul, but it's already in your soul, and draw a card. You still draw a card because that skill that he activated still is up there. The skill is never gone because you have already paid the cost. So you still have to resolve the complete ability. But because it's up to you to choose which skill you want to activate first, you could choose to activate the skill of the GB8 first. So it's very different from the skill of the Spike Bouncer right here and the skill of Breach. The reason why it's so different is because putting this unit into your soul and paying the counter +1 to draw a card is part of his skill costs. While for this card, it's not part of the cost, it's just part of the skill itself. So because it's not more on the field, you could still draw the card and put this unit into your soul. Well, this unit, you cannot put it in your soul if it's already in your soul, or if it went to the drop zone. So let's say you attack with this and they denial griffin, they attack, so it dies. You still draw a card, but you cannot put it from your drop zone back to your soul. That doesn't work. It needs to be on the field to put it into your soul, but you could still draw the card, which makes it again a very strong card to play with the GB8. There are other cards that you could also use with the GB8. We have also shown Mayhem Tiger, which is a great card to use. But there are also other cards. One of them is actually the Detonate Barrel. That's also one of the cards that could shine very well with the GB8 because of his ability to Soul Blast something and draw a card. So it means it's very easy to, Soul Blast itself and draw a card, which makes it a free attacker with the GB8. And we could go on and on and on. The list is actually big when we talk about what combos you could do with the GB8. But yeah, pretty much that's what I wanted to explain. If we want to go to the combos, so let's say that how does a GB8 turn look like? It's actually quite simple if you have done it before. So you could know what combos that you want to do. I already showed you how the Frog Raider work, so you could restand it and keep powering it up, and then you could use cards like Spike Bouncer that keep calling Regards extra to the field. The same goes for, let's say, if you have a Rising Star that could do the same thing. Anything that could call extra units that you could help to power up your Frog Raider. Of course, we also have the one of the G Perfect Guards, Kane, which could also Cunning, I think his name was, who could also power up the Frog Raider even more by binding himself from the drop zone. And each time you bind 3, you could give the Frog Raider extra 30k. But at one point you have already binded 3, which is good, but you could still give power. So each time you call it and put it back, you could actually give the Frog Raider extra 30k, which is insane. That was the combo that we did against Gize, especially Gize, but we don't play the PG anymore, at least not in this deck. And it's also not needed because, again, we have the Force 1 and Force 2. So let's actually show a little bit how this deck works, let's say, or how when you get to the GB8, what do you do? First, we need to talk about how do you get to the GB8. So in this deck, if you haven't seen the deck profile, you could check it out. I will put the link in the description section for you guys to check and enjoy. Pretty much you have multiple right targets that you could go to, but most of the time you do go into tier because you want to undercut your opponent. And if you get a trigger, you could always give it to the Mega Trainer that is chilling on the field. Next turn you could go into whatever you like. Pretty much most of the time you will be going into the Spike Bouncer. If your opponent rushes you, then you could still get the Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1 to get something to the field, which is always good. If you get a grade 2, it's a good interceptor. But if you have the Zazan on hand, then you normally want to keep the Soul, but it depends if you're going first or second. So how does it work? If you go first, then what you want to do is you want to activate the skill of Zazan or the skill of Tempest. And the reason why you really want to do that is that you will be able to get GB1. And that GB1 will actually make a huge difference because your G Guardians, the flip G Guardians, are cards with the GB1 ability. So you could not use them right away. If you don't use this strategy, or at least use the starter from Gize, then you don't have GB1 and you could not use them right away. So when you're sitting on grade 3, let's say that you're chilling on the grade 3, which could, let's not say it's rising, let's say something different. So let's get Bad and Dragger, because this deck also plays Bad and Dragger. And so you ride into Bad and Dragger, you get both, let's say you get Force 1, because you pretty much focus more on the power than the crits. And after that, if you go back to Rising, you could still get a Force 1 and a Force 2, and then you make this great. So you have this. Okay, so you have first, you went first, and you have your Bad and Dragger. When your opponent will attack you on the next turn, let's say that they only attack you once, then you will never be able to get to the GB8, because even if you G-guard 4 times, then you'll be G-guarding for 1, 2, 3, 4. You could not use the flip G-guard because in the same attack, these cards are not face up. These cards are chilling on your Guardian Circle. So there is no way that you will be able to activate and get into the GB8 next turn. So what you want to do, if your opponent could attack you 2 or 3 times or multiple times, you want to use 1 G-guard on the first attack. So you'll be able to use one of your heal triggers, right? So let's say that you have all 4 heals on hand. And what you want to do right here is you activate the first G-Guardian on the first attack, only 1, and then you use 1 G-Guard. And then at the end of the battle, this goes back to your G-Zone. And then when they attack you next time, now you could actually use all 3 heal triggers at the same time. And then you will be able to G-Guard and flip, second G-Guard and flip. And then people say, hey, you could not G-Guard anymore because you have 5 G-Guards face up in your G-Zone. Nope, you have 1 card which is face up in your G-Zone. These are still on the Guardian Circle, so you could still keep G-Guarding. So you use your last flip G-Guard to flip something else, and now you end up with 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So if you want to get to the GB8, you need all 4 heal triggers on the first turn. We are talking about striding the GB8 on the first turn. So with this, you will be able to get to your GB8. Problem is, people actually know that if you don't have, or some people that play against the GB8 know that they actually don't attack you 2 or 3 times right away. Maybe if they could kill you, yes, because you could not afford to use all of your G-Guards in 1 turn. Also, you need to have 4 G-Guards, 4 heal triggers, on hand, which is also not that easy to get. Well, in this deck, it actually is okay easy, but most of the time, it's not that easy to get 4 heals into your start, into your hand, whenever you get into the grade 3. If you go second, then because you already have stridden once, you have 2 cards face up in your G-Zone, you only need 3 G-Guards to get into the GB8, because 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so even 2 flip G-Guards are not enough. You need to have more. So let's say that your first stride was a Merendol, and you use the Merendol to flip E-Cyclone, and then you need to activate 2 G-Guards, then you use 1 flip G-Guard, 2 flip G-Guard, you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're on GB6, you could not get into the GB8. You could get to the GB8 if you have a Zazan or a Tempest during the GB8 turn, because you could stride next turn into the GB8. That works. You could always just stride to the GB8 even if you don't have GB8. Yes, his skill will not activate, but you could stride into it. So you stride into it, and then you use the skill of Tempest or the skill of Zazan to flip the, let's say, the Cyclone, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The GB8 skill now is activated. So it's possible to get to the GB8 as long as you have Zazan or Tempest into your hand, and you can activate them next turn. But normally what you want to do right here is when they attack into you and you already have these two face up, is you could use 1 G guard and then use 2 flip G guards, and then you could get into the GB8, because this is perfect 7 cards face up in your G zone, and when you stride into the GB8 you will have 8, of course. So that works as well. That's when you go second, which is actually better, some people think, some people may say. But now, because we actually have the Tempest and the Zazan, we could get that 1 flip early. So you could actually have 1 card face up in your G zone already. So even if you go first and you already have this, then you only need 3 heal triggers to get to the GB8, which is really not that hard if you play 1 or multiple copies of your Mega Trainer, the old one, and you also play Jelly Beans, and you also play lots of draw triggers, and you also play cards like Zazan, who could actually go through your deck faster by calling vanillas and drawing more. And with that, if you have the 3 heals on hand when your opponent attack into you, you just start using your flip G guards right away. You could even do them, like, you could use this on 1 attack, and the next attack you'll be using this, and then you flip this face up, so you have this chilling on your Guardian circle, and this flip face up. You still have 1, 2, 3. Then the next G guard you use, you flip 1 more, and now you have 1, 2, 3, 4. So you could not flip anymore. But then these goes to your G zone. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So you're good to go. But if you don't have that GB face up, even if you will have the 4 heals on hand, you still need to G guard once, then end of the battle goes to your G zone, and then on the next attack you have to G guard all of the flip G guards right away. Because if you choose to use only 1 flip G guard on the first attack or 2 flip G guards on the first attack, then you will end up with having 3 G Guardians in your G zone, and then on the next attack you want to use 2 flip G guards, but you cannot do that because the first flip G guard will flip 1, and then you could not G guard anymore because you have 1, 2, 3, 4 face up G guards in your G zone. Because if you don't know, the first ability of the G guards say you could only G guard if you don't have 4 G guards already in your G zone. So what happens right here is you have to use the 3 G guards right away. So use, flip, use, flip, use, and flip 1 more, and then you will have 4. These will go right there, and then you will have 7. Okay, so that's something that you really need to understand, and you really need to understand what Zazan and Tempest actually do for this deck. It just makes the deck easier to use, but it doesn't necessarily make it way stronger, or it doesn't really make it let's say toxic, or as some people think. It's not like that. It's actually quite okay. It just makes the deck goes faster as you get 1 GB, and also it makes it interesting that you could still get to your GB8, and in your GB8 turn reach the GB8 as you call the Zazan or use the Tempest. If you have like a Mega Trainer, you could still activate to get a Zazan, and during the GB8 you will be able to get into that. So that actually works. That combo works. Alright, so how does this this turn look like, the GB8 turn? Well, we're not talking Frog Raider, as again I showed you a little bit of how the Frog Raider works. So I will just show you how the deck works without the Frog Raider, the deck that I already did a deck profile on. So right here, what we actually want to do is we want to ride into the Rising. So let's say that we want the same route that I explained. So going first or going second, again, it doesn't matter. I just explained how your turns would look like. So let's say that you went first. So you ride into the Spike Bouncer right here, and you could use the skill of the Spike Bouncer. Let's say that your opponent actually rushed you a lot. So you could use the skill of the Spike Bouncer right here to Soul Blast it here, to call something to the field from your top 2, and most of the time you could just want to go for Breach right here, and then you could just attack. If you could attack into Raggers, let's say that they're rushing you, so you could choose to attack into the Raggers, but you could not use the skill of Breach if you're attacking to Raggers. But you don't want to use it anyway, because let's say for some reason you want to have the Interceptor. If you want to use it, then you just have to attack into the Vanguard. If it's a deck that your opponent plays that doesn't really needs them to have lots of counterblasters, or it doesn't make the deck work better by having more than one counterblast, or at least a counterblast, and you could still afford to attack into them. Alright, so you could attack right here. You could even activate the skill to put it into your soul to recycle that tier back to your deck and draw a card. But if not, if you just want to attack into Regards, then you could do that as well. You most of the time attack first with your finger, so they do not intercept and you have to attack the Vanguard. So you attack with this into the Regard, you drive check something, and then you attack with this. And then on the next turn, you will be able to ride, let's say that you ride into, so they attack this, they retire it, and now you ride into the Bed and Dragger. They still gave you Counterblast, or you still have a Counterblast. Remember that you need to keep at least one Counterblast for him. You use him as fast as you can if you play against something that retires, because you really want to get his skill off. And right here, if you go first again, then pretty much you, of course, get a marker. And then let's put it right here. I always like to put my markers on this side, the other side of the Mega Trainer. But let's say that you don't have a Zazan into your hand. So when you get this, you activate the skill of Mega Trainer right here, you actually want to use a Tempest or a Zazan at this turn, because you want first. And why is that? It's because they are better than a heal trigger right here, because again they gave you that GB1 that I just explained. Of course, you could not get a Tempest with a skill of Mega Trainer, because Tempest is not a unit and Mega Trainer needs to get a unit. So most of the time you go for the Zazan, and now you could afford to put the Zazan on the field, activate its ability. You could also do it early if you want to, that's also a possibility, but because you are going first, there is no reason to rush too much if you don't want to give your opponent counterblasts. But again, depend on your matchup. So you get the Zazan, you activate its ability, you call whatever shenanigans you have in your hand. If it's a draw trigger, if it's the grade 2 vanilla deadly, if it's the grade 1, doesn't matter. Just explaining the combo, so you do it like this, and you'll be good to go. You could also do it like that. Again, good to go. Bend whichever you want to do. There is no good and bad right here. I normally want to do it like this, or like this, just to make the right numbers. And if they are chilling on 10k, you could just make this column right here, because these will be almost as strong, and this will hit the perfect 15, and because you already flipped something, this would hit the 20, and this will hit 25. All right, so right here you have already flipped the Cyclone face up, so you actually get the power from Cyclone. So you have one Cyclone, which is flipped face up. So, and now you could give the Vanilla's extra 5k. And you already have 1 GB, which is again very, very, very important, because that's what you want. You want to get as fast as you can into your GBs. So we will put the GB right here so you guys could see it. And now you could attack first with this into a Regard or into a Vanguard. Again, doesn't matter, you have lost the soul because of the skill of Zazan. And then you draw 2 cards as well. Of course, you drive check, you get your stuff, you attack more if you want to, if you need to. If not, then don't do it. And on the next turn, now your 3 heal triggers will get into action. And first, you actually want to intercept with this to get the full power of your G Guardians if you really need to. And then you use your flip G Guard, and with his skill, you flip something, and then you activate the ability to put one of your Regards into your soul, so you get more soul, which is good. And then you could, of course, give him the power because you get 10k for every 2 open Rhaegars, so that's the maximum power that you want to get. And then let's say that they attack you more. If you think that they will attack you more, then you keep it at this. But if you think that they will stop right there and they could not kill you, then you use all of your G Guardians right away. Because you already have one flipped, you could afford to put your G Guardians or not use them at the same time, and depend on how smart is your opponent or what deck they are playing. Alright, so then on the next attack, use both heal triggers to flip first the Cray Elementals, and then whatever you have left. If you play more Cray Elementals, then use them. And now you have 1, 2, 3, 4. You could not G-Guard anymore, but hey, that rhymes. 1, 2, 3, 4. You could not G-Guard anymore. And now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So you're ready for your GB8 next turn. Only 3 heals are enough. So again, you take 1, 2, or 3 damage, whatever. You actually take as much as you can. Because why not? Because you want the counterblast, because you want to get into your stronger GB8 attack. So let's say that your opponent actually gave you 4 counterblasts, because that's crazy. You have used 2 in the early game, so I will put them right here. You've already used 2 in the early game, and then you got 2 more. So this is how your damage would look like. Right, so you stand and of course you draw, and now you get to ride into the Rising, and then Rising will give you both markers. Let's use this cute otter marker right here, and now your Bad End Dragger will come out with a soul. If they have something like a Honely, you could retire it. Even if they put it behind the Vanguard, you could retire it, just get rid of it. If not, you could just call it right here. This is always good because this could make the right attack right away. This could move to the front row after you stride, of course. So you stride to get into the GB8 right here, and now your combo could start. So how will your combo look like? Again, it depends on what you have in your hand. If you have something like a Breach or a Spike Bouncer or a Tier, you could actually use those right away. If not, then you could keep the cards in your hands and try to get the right cards out of your deck. Your combo makers right here, as I said, are pretty much Breach, Spike Bouncer, Tier. You could use Zazan as a combo extender, also work very well, but there's no reason to explain him because I think that you guys already know what he does. I just showed you. You have also one more combo extender, which is Wonder Boy. Pretty much these are the unit that you focus on the most. If you play Burrow, then you focus on Burrow. If you play Ted, then it's the same as Wonder Boy. So pretty much these are the cards that you actually focus on the most. All right, now he also is very good, but yeah, let's just explain it like with this. So the card that you really need to keep in mind is Tier. You need to know how much Tiers you have left in your deck, and you always have to think about the possibility if your opponent plays a deck that could calls during your turn. Something like Pale Moon, something like Great Nature, something like Bermuda, because if they do, then you need to know that if they go to Honely or they call the Honely, you could still use the skill of the GB8, because if they call during your battle, at the end of the battle you could still put something into your soul with that unit that attacked or boost, and you could call something from your deck, and you could always call the Tier back. But don't go crazy with your counterblasts if they play a deck that could call the Honely. Have to be very smart about using that. But let's say that you actually have something like a Spike Bouncer. So you will be calling the Spike Bouncer right here, and you will activate his ability to Soul Blast something, and you will be able to call. So you can't blast one more. And you could call something like the, let's say the Wonder Boy. Alright, so the Wonder Boy will be able to put the right cards back to your deck if you have the right cards. If not, then you don't have to get the Wonder Boy right away. You could also choose to get something different that because you want to have the Wonder Boy left in your deck for the extent of your combos, which most of the time your Wonder Boy will be able to put your Spike Bouncer or will be able to put Breach back to your deck. Those are the cards that Wonder Boy wants to put back to your deck. Right here, if you get let's say you get something like a tier, that's also good as long as you have the soul. You could use it. If you don't have the soul, then don't get it because again, that's a waste. But let's say that you have a Spike Bouncer in your drop zone because of the early game that you soul blasted. Now you get the Wonder Boy, and Wonder Boy will put that Spike Bouncer back to your deck, and this is perfect. This is what you want. All right, so right here you will start attacking. This is the strong column that has the crit. And this is actually the column that is weak, but most of the time you use it for your Spike Bouncer to just irritate your opponent with some small attacks that your opponent actually have to defend. Because you already have the face-up Spiking Cyclone, which gives this unit the extra 5k. Of course, you have used Wonder Boy skill, so it gets 5k as well. Now you could choose to attack with the Spike Bouncer. And right here, if you have it looking like this, that's even better. Let me explain why, but it doesn't matter. We'll just do it like this. All right, so what you do right here is you attack, and this is 10, 15, 22. Now you could activate the skill of the GB8 to give it to something and accept 10k. And I would like to give it to this and not to him, and also not to him, because I want to use his ability at the end of the battle. So what happens right here is your opponent would have to guard. If they have an interceptor, you could also just choose to just attack the interceptor. That works. But at the end of the battle, you put this unit into your soul and you draw a card by count less than 1. And we are doing the combo right here. Let's say without any cards on hand, you could still do it. So let's say that you already have 1 card on hand. I mean, you should have more, but let's say you only have 1. And then you activate the skill of Spike Monster, so you get 1 more. So now you have 2 cards on hand. All right. And then you will attack with this column. So this is very strong. Your opponent would have to be very smart about taking it or not. If they are not chilling on 4 damage, let's say they are on 3 or they are on 2 and they are on no damage at all, then they will have to start getting the damage right away. So there is no reason to power them up even more with the GB8 skill. You could put the GB8 skill, or let's say the Wonder Boy right here, because why not? I mean, this already is a very strong attack. This is already a 43 and it already has the GB8 skill. I will not talk about the combo that you do against Kagero because of the G-Guardians. If you want me to, then I will do that in a different video. Again, otherwise this video is already taking too long and I don't want to make it even longer. So what happens right here is at the end of the battle, this would definitely go into your soul with a card from your hand, which is this one, and you will call something from your deck. Let's say that you call the tier right away to get the counter charge 4. Why 4? Because we have 4 Kree elementals face up in your G zone. If not, if you only have 3, by this combo we have 3, so you counter charge 3. Depending on how much Kree elementals you have face up in your G zone. Right here, you will attack with the tier. Give it the skill of the GB8 again, and then at the end of the battle, tier will go into your soul with a card from your hand, your last card, and now you get to call from your deck. And now the Spike Bouncer will actually become very effective because the Spike Bouncer comes, he counter blasts 1, and you soul blast something. And what you want to soul blast is your Spike Bouncer or your Breach. And then you get to check the top cards and you search for something that is again a combo extender. If not, then just something that comes right here and makes a huge difference. All right, so if your opponent gets a trigger, you could choose to attack into the Vanguard. If they go into that 4 damage, 5 damage, then it's good to not hit them with 1 damage anymore because they could only get triggers, and you could just choose to attack with this column. And what you do with the Spike Bouncer right here, you just attack into a Vanguard if they have some interceptors. If not, doesn't matter, and you'll be able to power up this column even more and more and more because the skill of the GB8 still activates. So you attack even if it's a wasted attack, it's good because the power will and the skill of the GB8 will go right there. So at the end of the battle, this goes into your soul and you Count Blast to draw a card again. Now Breach will attack, and then you activate a skill of Breach right away. You put this Spike Bouncer that you just put back to your deck. Soul Blasted with the other Spike Bouncer, and you put it into the bottom of the deck. And then you attack with it. At the end of the battle, remember you need to have a card in your hand. You put the card from your hands with the Breach into your soul, and then you call something from your deck, which is the Spike Monster that you just put back to your deck. And now you could choose to activate the Spike Monster skill. To Count Blast 1, to Soul Blast 1, and then you check the top cards of your deck and you try to get into another Breach. You try to get into Tear right here because Tear would give you the Soul Charge, or you get into anything again that gives you that possibility to extend your combos. And now you could choose the skill of Tear to Soul Blast stuff that you want to have back in your deck, and then you get the Count Charge 3. There is one skill that is still on standby. That was the skill of Breach. You put him into your soul. He's already in your soul, but you still draw one because his skill actually already activated. So again, that works. You attack with this, you Count Blast 1, you put the power right here, goes into your soul, and you draw a card. Then you attack with this. And this could go on and on and on and on. You could even attack boost with the Wonder Boy. This gets even more power, so it gets one more 10k, and it gets the skill of the GB8 yet again. And then at the end of the battle, you could put this into your soul with a card from your hand. You could choose to call something like the Badan Dragger. The Badan Dragger could attack, activate his skill to put the Wonder Boy back to your deck, because the Wonder Boy is another combo extender. And then at the end of the battle, you put that and this card into your soul to call something like a Spike Bouncer, Count Blast, Soul Blast, try to search into a Tear or search into a Breach. Breach could put Tear back. So again, lots and lots of combos that you could do with this. We haven't even attacked with our Vanguard. Sometimes I actually go through all of my deck and get all normal units out of it, and if my opponent still survived, then you could still attack with this. I mean, that's crazy. But this is pretty much the combo that you actually do with these two. You have to be very smart about the timing, because the card that you draw from hand is after you use the skill of the GB8, so you still need a card from your hand. But these two combos very well. There is another combo that you do without counter blasts at all. That's the combo that you do with, of course, the Burl. Burl has the ability that he could Soul Blast himself to draw a card, and if you do that, then you actually don't really have to focus on the Spike Bouncer or focus on the Tear anymore. You could just use these two. What you do right here is you attack with him. So you put this right here. You attack with him, you Soul Blast himself, and then he gets more power and you get to draw one. And then you give the skill of the GB8 to him. And then at the end of the battle, he goes into your soul, and then you call a new one from your deck, and you already have one of him ready. And then you could always use this to attack. And then if you have used something to Soul Blast, let's say you add a Mayhem Tiger into the deck or something that could Soul Blast, you could still put the barrel back to your deck, and then you could use this to attack again, Soul Blast the barrel, and then at the end of the battle you could call another barrel, put it into your soul. That works as well, but I like the combo with the Spike Bouncer and the Breach more because it's more flexible. It actually benefits a lot from your opponent giving you counter blasts in the early game, and it just works better because you have something as Soul Blast, you have something that puts its back, and again, it's crazy good. Alright guys, I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you actually understood it, and then if you have any problems with the deck or you want to know more, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to explain it to you guys. When talking about Rising, there are other cards that you could put or add to the deck that works amazing, but mostly the card that gives you the most benefit is actually Spike Monster, and will still be Spike Monster, because the first ability give you an extra attack, and the second ability give you an extra card. So Spike Monster by himself is E+2 in this deck. The only thing you need to do is you need to keep counterblasting, but again, because of tier, and because of the possibility that Breach could put tier back to the deck, is crazy, because you could actually keep using the Spike Monsters and the tier, and at one point when you don't have cards in your hand, you could still do lots of crazy shenanigans with going through the right combo pieces. And then you could always, of course, attack with your Vanguard. Remember that attacking with your Vanguard is an extra attack, but also give you at least 3 more attacks. And because you play so many draw triggers, every draw trigger that you get is even 1 more attack. But most importantly is the fact that now Rising gives us the Force 2 as well. Is that sometimes you actually have like these chilling right here, and you will be able to put the crit on the other column as well. So if you have used the skill of Rising twice, or was able to ride into Rising twice, then this would be your fuel. So the first, let's say you went into Bad Dragger, then into a Rising, and then you went back into Rising again, then your fuel would look like this, and your opponent would not be able to take anything. Or at least when they go this column, they could not take anymore, and this column, they could not take anymore. But most importantly, it's what you usually do is you ride first into Bad Dragger or into Rising, and then another time into Rising, and you will be able to get at least 2 Force 1s and 1 Force 2, and this column will be just so huge, and you could just destroy your opponent. There are also the question like, how does your pure turbo look like? I could do a video on that if you want to, because the pure turbo uses cards like the Mayhem Tiger, could use cards like the Frog Raider, because we also still focus on playing Rising, because Rising is amazing. Alright guys, thank you for watching, thank you for tuning in our channel. Again, I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. We'll be more than happy to help you out. If you have another combo that you're suggesting and you want me to do, you could do that as well, and it will help to see you in the next video. Right, thank you, until next time.